to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, once again, good evening. Welcome everyone here tonight. Those of you watching at home, those of you watching down in Florida. We have a full board tonight. We can conduct business as scheduled. And at this time, I'd like to request an addition to the agenda. Propose to add a closed session at the end of tonight's meeting to discuss pending litigation.
Support.
Okay, so moved by the supervisor and second by, I'll give it to Trustee Budney. Discussion on the potential discussion? That sounded funny.
Yes.
All right. With that, for those in favor of adding a closed session at the end of tonight's session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will be added. Other additions, deletions to tonight's agenda. Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands as amended. With that, we will recess. Am I doing this properly? Recess for tonight's second public hearing. So, Ms. Boyd.
Good evening. Today's public hearing, our second public hearing, is for our community development block grant funds that we receive through Wayne County. It's a grant program set up through HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development Department. They have very specific guidelines on what we can use the grant funding for. It must benefit low or moderate low income persons, benefit low or moderate low income limited clientele, or meet particular urgent community needs, or address slum or blight housing issues. We are very fortunate here in Groseal. We don't have a lot of the issues that some of the communities have to address and use their monies for, so we were able to use it primarily for our senior community and doing ADA compliant issues. We have used some of the money in the past at the airport when issues have arisen, but there hasn't been any issues recently, so we've been able to use a lot of them in the recreation department. This year, we are proposing that we use our money for senior programming, which is $24,000. These monies help offset the cost of our senior programming staff, our senior driving for Meals on Wheels, and our community van program, which does essential services or essential runs, and for various senior programs. We also help sponsor Senior Alliance, which is proposed $1,750. We contribute to a nonprofit program through the Area Agency on Aging. We are one of 34 communities that help sponsor this program, and they pick up where we leave off. We do essential service runs. We are not set up to do, say, daily runs or people who need dialysis or chemotherapy, someone who needs every single day. We're not equipped to do that, and the Senior Alliance is, so that's why we contribute to help offset their costs that they have. Then we do ADA improvements. When we have programming, we can only have grant funding in 3 areas, so that's the 3 areas that we've concentrated our monies. And this year we are trying to, we have $22,797, and we're going to use that hopefully to offset the cost of redoing the floor at the farm and working on some compliance issues with our egresses and in and out of the building. When you're in the activity room, we have like kind of makeshift ramps, so we want to make those ADA compliant and then do some other upgrades within the farm to help us with our ADA issues. So that's how the money is proposed to be spent this year. We do have a little bit of an odd process this year. Normally we are asked to submit our projects at the end of the year, and then we have 2 hearings, and it's not so crunched in. Well, Wayne County is going through a lot of changes, in particular with this programming. Several of their departments are combining and they're rearranging things, so we were told at the end of the year not to submit anything, and then they would let us know. They came out in January with some preliminary new guidelines, and then they kind of changed them. So they're kind of putting stuff out into communities, and then everyone's responding. So we were told very late in January that, hey, we're going to do it the same way we've always done it. So do your 2 community hearings. So things have happened very quickly. So I don't know where we stand for next year because there seems to be a lot of changing within the department and how the grant's going to be funded. So hopefully we'll still be able to apply and get some funding, especially for our senior programming, because we really depend on that money to provide our the programs to our seniors. So we'll see what future holds on that. But for this year, that's how the money is proposed to be spent. We are allocated. We're supposed to do projects based on the monies we got last year. Once all the projects come in, sometimes the money changes. Sometimes we get less. Sometimes we get more. Sometimes they give us exactly what they told us. So it's always a surprise when they send us our packets. So that's what I have.
Questions for Ms. Boyd that we didn't ask at the last meeting regarding the Community Development Block Grant funding. Mr. Treasurer.
Randy, I assume that these ADA upgrades will be handled through the bid process by Township standards. We haven't committed any dollars or contracts.
No, we won't commit anything until we know that the project has been approved and the monies have been allocated. So we won't do anything in any of these project areas until July. Because that's when you can't do it. You can't spend, if you spend $1 before July 1st, then you can't submit that project for So once usually we get our contract sometime in June, sometimes the end of May, but I would guess this year it's going to be June, right? And then we would go from there. Then we would bid out our processes, and we follow all of our internal protocols. And then if there's any within the guidelines, like Davis-Bacon or anything like that, then we have to follow those as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Ms. Boyd from the board? Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to public comment on the public hearing. Okay, seeing none, we will return to the regular business meeting. Right. We'll adjourn. We'll adjourn it at 7:38 and re-enter open session on our business meeting. With that, consent agenda, Mr. Treasurer. Moving along.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I would recommend the approval of consent agenda 15-098, which includes the minutes of the February 8, 2016 Township Board meeting, as well as the check register dated through February 19, 2016.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Vanoss, seconded by Trustee Budney. Comments, questions from the board regarding the consent agenda? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That stands approved. We'll move on to action items. I'm sorry, Mr. Treasurer.
I don't think you were there.
I was supposed to, well, public comment on this, public comment on agenda. You're right, I did not. Yeah. With that, thank you for the reminder. I will now open the floor to, gosh, I've been doing this for how long? Open the floor to a public comment on tonight's agenda items before I open the agenda items. Okay, seeing none, now, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Seeing none, let's move on to action items. The first being the Community Development Block Grant application approval. Mr. Malvesto.
We're on the mic here. All right, Mr. Supervisor, proposed motion or recommended action is based on the recommendation of the Recreation Director. The Grosseal Township Board authorizes the Recreation Department to seek grant funding from Wayne County Community Development Division for the following fiscal year of 2016-2017. These are the CDBG projects. Township-wide senior programs at $24,000. Senior-wide Senior Alliance at $1,750, and ADA improvements at the Activity Center for $22,797.09, for a total of $48,547.09.
Support. Okay, moved by Trustee Malvesto, seconded by Trustee Budney. Discussion among the board. This requires no special vote to my knowledge. We could go with a voice vote. You're requesting to say that? Okay, if that's a requirement, in that case, I'll initiate a roll.
May I want to say something because a question came up earlier today, and I think it's worth putting out to the public, just to show that we are aware and that we're we don't feel that there's any conflict here. not only today, but for years, the person who has delivered the nutritious meals to the seniors, she happens to be married to one of the board members. She was doing this way before he became a board member. She's still doing it, just so that the public understands that she is married to a board member. But in this case, in the surrounding circumstances, I myself don't feel there's any conflict involved. I just wanted everybody to know that.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Budney. The fact of the matter is, she was making before the board member. Well, everybody knows it's Mrs. Posias,
Well, yeah.
and she's been doing it long before Wally was on the board. And this vote is about continuing the program. I guess if the vote were about who was going to be doing the driving, it would be a different story. But this is just about continuing the program. I'm hoping the board will vote to approve that. So, sorry, Mr. Posias.
Yes, I'd like to engage in that roll call vote as the last vote.
I will honor that request. To make that easy, then, I'll start, just go my left to right. Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Budney?
Aye.
Treasurer Van Oss?
Aye.
Supervisor votes aye. Clerk Ranka?
Aye.
Trustee Malvesto?
Aye.
And Trustee Posias?
Thank you, fellows on the board. I will abstain to keep some folks happy.
Duly noted. I can make no comments one way or the other, so thank you for your consideration, Mr. Posias. All right, with that done, let's move on to action item number 2. And our DPS expert. Yeah, you're taking this one, Jim.
Okay. All right, we have a motion based upon the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company. Motion to award the bid to Campo Brothers, lowest bidder, in the amount of $121,350 for the Stout Avenue Drainage Project.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss.
Okay, what this is, there's 11 or 12 homes on Stout that every time it rains, their front yards, some of them their side yards, their driveways are flooded, and they stay that way for some time because the culverts in front of their homes don't drain correctly. This was brought to our attention last year. We did try and get the project out last year, but by the time we were going to do it, it was too late in the year to get everything done, and it would have been a mess in their yards over the winter time. So we put it off. Plus, we had some problem with the unit pricing from the bidders. So we rebid it this year and have come back with this. What will basically happen is the culverts will be redug a little deeper, a little wider. The approaches to all the driveways will be redone. And they will be replaced with whatever is there. If they have gravel, they'll get gravel. If they have asphalt, they'll get asphalt. And if they have concrete, they'll get concrete. If all of the DPS Commission went and viewed this area when it was underwater, it was just something that needs to be done. It'll be paid for out of the drainage fund.
Mr. Treasurer.
Just to add, just to add to that, this problem on Stout goes back 15, 20 years. Wayne County came out on a couple of occasions, this is a Wayne County drain, by the way. They came out and made some corrections, and unfortunately, they started to trench in the wrong direction, which made the problem even worse. We received complaints, kept building up. We were getting a freeze and thaw condition in the spring of the year where it was actually destroying parts of these driveways, actually lifting concrete. We contacted Wayne County on a number of occasions. They came out, looked at it, agreed that there was a problem, but said it was so far down their priority list that probably wasn't even feasible that I didn't be around to see it fixed. So at that point in time, I brought it to the commission. I said, these are all residents, they're all taxpayers. And so the commission looked at it. We had it engineered to do it the correct way and resolve the issue in front of probably 15 homes, 12 homes?
12 homes, I believe.
12 homes. And so that's how this ended up here today. Lorenda, you want to add to that?
You guys have missed everything. Thank you.
Thanks for your support.
There were culverts under the road too, weren't there, that left a couple of speed bumps that were unplanned? Or was that a different
A
problem?
different problem.
Sorry I brought it up. Mr. Cliff.
Yes, I've got a question. I don't see anything in here about the residents being notified. I assume they're all in favor, but I don't see anything here. What was the process to notify the residents?
We had a couple of meetings and we sent out letters. We had invited them to our meeting where we never had a meeting where all of them were present, but we probably, out of the 12, I'd say we probably had 9 people show up at one or the other meeting. The other ones are aware of it, according to neighbors, the people involved. They've talked to them, so they're all aware of it. One of the biggest issues that we faced, they were all happy we were gonna take this on. The big thing was the approaches. I believe Wayne County said, you're gonna, if you do this, you replace it with what it is. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so no objections then from the neighbors receiving quote unquote improvements.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Other questions, comments from the board on this activity? With none offered, let's see. Those in favor of I'll try to make it a little more lively. Okay. Those in favor of approving, based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company, the motion to award bid to Campo Brothers, lowest bidder in the amount of $121,350 for the Stout Avenue Drainage Project, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That carries. We'll move on now to action item number 3. Once again.
Thank you, sir. All right. Based upon the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company, motion to award a bid for the East River water main replacement from Ferry Road to Horse Mill Road, Project 2.
Bear to tear.
Bear to Tear Contracting, Inc., lowest bidder in the amount of $2,006,192.50. To approve the attached resolution for Wayne County, which I will go to, and this is important. In order to do this, one of the things part of the project is to leave the old water main in place rather than dig it out, and in order to do that, we have Wayne County wants this resolution, which
let's get a second first.
Oh.
Okay. Well, moved by Trustee Budney and seconded by Trustee Smith.
I was going to put the resolution into as part of.
It's all
okay.
part. It's a two-part motion.
All right. Okay.
Yes, Trustee Smith. Now read to your heart's content.
Thank you. Now you can. Okay, at the regular meeting of the Groseal Township Board of Trustees held at Groseal Township Hall, located at 9601 Grow Road, Groseal, Michigan 48138, on the 22nd day of February 2016, the following resolution was offered by Mr. Budney and seconded by Ms. Smith. Whereas the Township of Groseal, through its Public Service Department, desires to complete the East River water main replacement, Horse Mill Road to Ferry Road project, known as the project, whereas the project involves installing new water main lines underneath a traveled road surface within the road right-of-way under the jurisdiction of the County of Wayne, the county. Whereas the Township has requested an exception to the county's requirement, specifically the Township has requested permission to leave the current water main lines in the ground, the current water mains, when new ones will be installed during the project. Whereas the county is willing to grant the request in exchange for the township's agreement to adhere to the specific duties related to the current water mains. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the county shall grant the township exception to its requirement that unused utilities be removed in lieu of abandonment in place. Resolved that the county shall grant the contemplated exception to the township as related to the projects only, and be it further resolved that in exchange for the exception provided, the township shall, 1, maintain ownership of the current water main lines, 2, restore in a manner and condition acceptable to the county-owned road right-of-way suffering damages arising from the current water mains, 3, under county permit, take action necessary to protect the public from potential injury or property damage arising from the current water mains. 4, pressure grout the current water mains with flowable fill material. 5, cause to be removed or reimburse the county for removal of reconstruction, widening, or relocation project, and hold harmless the county with respect to any and all incidents or claims arising from the current water mains.
That's a mouthful.
That is.
Indeed. So it looks like we're going to have to have 2 votes. One on is that one on the project and one on the resolution? Can we wrap them all into one? Doing one? Okay. We will do that. And
it's been.
Go ahead.
Just going to clarify that, and then I'll turn it over to
us.
Again.
And this is this is part of the water main project that was on the millage that was turned down earlier or turned down last year. The biggest problem with the water mains is the fact that they're from the 1930s. They're 6-inch water mains, and we probably couldn't find a part of them that are actually still 6 inches. They're much, much less. Not only do they pose a problem to the people who get their water off of those, the bigger and more important problem is the safety factor regarding fire. We had a water study done, and that was the number one thing that they asked us to take care of, was to get the water mains redone. So this is part of the project. This is part 1. East River, we also have West River to take care of at a later date, but right now we want to take care of East River. This will run from Ferry Road to Horse Mill. We will use directional drilling to do it rather than open cut and tearing up other utilities. Of course, along East River, you have all the utilities that are running from the non-water side to the water side. You have the water sprinkling systems involved. You have decorative driveways involved. By directional drilling, we can get past this without a lot of disruption. So that's why we want to do it that way. As I say, the biggest factor is the safety factor for improved water flows if we so need them.
And one thing I'd like to add too is, as we get closer to the start of the project, we will be notifying all the owners through there. There's probably about 60 properties that'll be involved in this project. Hopefully we could have maybe an open house, show them the project, give them contact information in case a problem should arise in front of their home, but at no time will they be denied access to their home. So they might have to wait a few minutes as they move along, but at no time will they be denied access. As Jim had mentioned, that this it's an important project. It improves the fire flows that Duncan's been after us for a while now, and it also helps to it'll complete a major portion of the loop that we're trying to complete around the island.
One thing that the DPS Commission always tries to do whenever they have a project, they contact the people who are going to be impacted by it. Normally, we invite them to come in, but we certainly all send them a letter and let them know what's doing, and we will, this will be no different.
Ms. Beneteau, the 14-inch high-density polyethylene replacement, the latest, greatest, state-of-the-art.
For directional drilling, that's the pipe that they prefer to use, yes.
What's the projected lifespan?
Oh, my gosh. Hopefully I'll never have to see it again, yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of infrastructure repairs. This isn't a piecemeal. This is a long-term, long-range replacement plan, getting our island-wide water system up to where we know it should be.
Yep, we're very proactive.
When you consider we have the cast iron. I mean, what we're going to be replacing is 6-inch cast iron. You think is put in back in the 30s. We have gotten our money's worth out of that.
About that.
But it's time to do this before we run into a huge problem. I mean, all of our water main breaks that we see are the old pipe, and but it's not only for that. It's just to bring it up to speed to today and for a safety factor. So let's do it before we run into a problem.
Was that that was sitting down in the first floor boardroom? Was that a sample of what we're putting in? That big piece?
Was which one?
The one that was sitting on the table in the boardroom downstairs. There was a piece there that showed a tapping system, and it was just huge stuff.
Oh, you know what?
That was.
Yeah, that was that we used on display. Yeah, it's similar to that. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking of the piece that we took out from an old water main.
No.
That was sitting downstairs.
I saw that. I saw way too much of that.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, I think we actually used that in our hiring of our.
Yes, we did.
Person, but yes, that's the type of thing that's going to go in.
Mr. Treasurer.
Just to expand, just to expand a little bit. The reason we had to go through the resolution is we've chose to directionally bore because several of these waterfront homes have gone underneath the road around our service pipes with access to their docks, the water service for their sprinkler system, electrical for their docks. And to remove all of that, take all of that out, it would really, really expand the cost of the project. And plus, if you've driven down there, some of the driveways are pretty expensive driveways to replace. So I think in the long run, it behooves us to directionally bore. We're only going to be down about 8-10 feet, so we shouldn't run into any problems like we did in the other drilling project that we went through. Secondly, we don't generally leave old service lines in the ground, but the same problem arises. If we were to remove that, that means we'd have to open cut, tear up all these lines, tear up all these driveways. So that's why we asked for the resolution to allow us to leave that old pipe in the ground. That old pipe will not be used. It'll be capped and probably put some kind of a slurry or fill into it. So, and the last thing, the water service quality of the pipes that are there tested annually, so there's really no problem, even though we're losing a great deal of it to build up in minerals and whatever happens to build up on these pipes. That's generally in place. So other than the fact that when we do some meter clean out or something, you generally don't break this loose. And our water is checked annually. We get an annual water report. So the water was safe. We're not doing it because the water was unsafe. The water was safe and will remain to be safe. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Other comments from the board?
I got two questions for you. Mm-hmm. When is the projected start date of that project?
I'll defer to Lorinda.
After the frost laws are off. So we're looking April.
This will all take place, obviously, down East River Road.
Correct.
Do we see any conflict between the project at the airport and this is going to be boring? So that we're not going to be opening up. We're not going to be taking waste off the island. We're not going to be bringing fill in. This is all boring. So there shouldn't be any conflict with trucks.
More truck traffic with the airport. No.
Minimal.
Okay. Yeah. And then my second question.
Yep. Yes.
Do I have to ask you?
Yes.
Okay. How do we Just for information, how will this project be paid for?
Future bonding. And future bonding. We're hopefully we'll be losing some bonds and replacing it with this. Until we actually get there, Lorinda, and you can help me out on this. And
a couple of we have a couple of major bonds that are going to be dropping off in 2018. Let me think. Macomb Street and the DPW building. 2019 we have Grow Road and East River, and then in 2025 is West River, South Point, right, Ann? Okay. Some of these ones will be dropping off. As it's in the budget, the proposed budget, so we will have to do some future bonding on it, obviously. We may have to raise rates just a little bit. It just depends on how everything works out, because as bonds drop off, it's reflected in the water rates where we won't have to raise them. Detroit passed on, they'll always pass on to us their rates. This year's proposed 7.1%. You want to?
Yeah, I think she covered it all, but we will look at,
We're going to look at it tomorrow.
where the bond payments are going to come and how these projects will be bonded, but they will come out of rates as they have in the past.
I guess basically we're going to try and
Minimize.
Thank you. Minimize as much as possible any rate increase in whatever way, shape, or form to the residents. Try and keep it within what we're doing. But until we actually sit down and get to the point of doing it, we won't know exactly what it is.
Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah, just a couple of comments there. Understand that the DPS water and sewer is an enterprise zone, and if there's a slight increase when these bonds drop off, it will have an effect on your water rate the other way. So we're not here to make the DPS is a break-even proposition. So hopefully we won't have to raise water rates. But if we do, and as the future bonds drop off, then obviously we won't have to collect as much on future water rates. So it's all going to come out in the laundry. We need to do this. We need to get these two projects are an absolute must for the fire protection on this island. And it's the last of the loop. Once it's done, the island is looped. And just another piece of information, I believe that the engineering on this East River water main was done in either 2000 or 2001. That's how long we've been putting this project off. And the reason we've been putting it off was primarily the issue that we had with the sewage plant and the high bonding that we had to go through with that. So this thing has sat in the bushes for a long time, and it's really, really past time to get this thing done.
We haven't had a catastrophic event where those mains failed. Sorry, Chief.
Well, that woke them up.
And justifiably so. We talk about fire suppression every day. So, any other comments from the board? Mr. Posias.
Number one, thanks to the DPS for hanging tough and getting this done. This is sorely needed, and I'm happy to see that you're doing it. No impact on roads or traffic during this construction period?
Go ahead.
One lane. They'll have one lane going through the project with flaggers at each end, but you'll be able to get through there still.
And
just where they're working.
And it's just where they're working. It won't be
just to remind folks that this is a water main repair, not road repair.
Right.
Exactly.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of following the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. I'm sorry, Mr.
We need a roll call vote on this one.
We will need a roll call.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, following the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company to award the bid for the East River water main replacement from Fair Road to Horse Mill Road project to Veritaire Contracting Incorporated, lowest bidder, in the amount of $2,006,192.50, and to approve the attached or the previously read resolution for Wayne County. And we'll do this again on a roll call. I'll start at the other end, a roll call vote. Trustee Posias.
Aye.
Trustee Malvesto.
Aye.
Clerk Ranka.
Aye.
Supervisor, aye. Treasurer Van Oss.
Aye.
Trustee Budney.
Aye.
And Trustee Smith.
Aye.
Unanimous. The motion carries. Again, well done to the DPS Commission. Okay, moving to action item number 4. I'm recommending Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees cancel the scheduled the previously scheduled March 28, 2016 business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees.
Second.
Got moved by the supervisor, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Basically, it's because the Easter holiday is very early this year, March 27th. The scheduled meeting is the 28th. We will have at least 2 trustees who'd made other plans. Much of the community will be on spring break. Schools will be out, and people will be taking kids on vacations. We got everything kind of jammed up, so it will be move all the activity up to the March 14th meeting. It will be a very busy meeting. Also, the annual meeting will have an abbreviated I will call it abbreviated annual meeting, also on March 14th. Just kind of the way the timing worked out, this may be a once in a however often Easter falls this early kind of event. Questions, comments from the board? None offered. Those in favor of canceling the March 28th Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees regular business meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That meeting is now canceled. Move to, let's see, number 5. Mr. Treasurer.
To authorize the process payments through fiscal year end March 31st, 2016. The proposed motion is to authorize processing and distribution of payments and distribution and disbursements from March 12th, 2016 to the year-end fiscal March 31st, 2016, due to the cancellation of March 28th, 2016 meeting, and I believe it's understood that these will be just standard billings.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney. Questions, comments among the board? None offered. Those in favor of authorizing the processing and distribution of payments and disbursements from March 12, 2016 through the end of the fiscal year, March 31st, 2016, due to the cancellation of March 28th, 2016 board meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. You are authorized to process checks. That will conclude tonight's action items. We'll move on to reports. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Supervisor, so in case you haven't been paying attention, it's presidential primary season, and we have our opportunity to vote in the presidential primary on March 8th. So that being said, absentee ballots for Democratic and Republican presidential primary are available to qualified voters upon request at the clerk's office until they can be mailed from the clerk's office to the voter until 2 p.m. Saturday, March 5th. They may be voted at the clerk's office, but that may not be removed from Township Hall until on Monday, March 7th until 4 p.m. And all absentee ballots must be returned to the clerk's office by 8 p.m. on Election Day, March 8th, in order to be counted. For this election, voters must request either a presidential or Democratic ballot when going to polls or to their precinct or voting absentee. Voters should be prepared to show photo identification at the polls or picking up their absentee ballot at Township Hall. If unable to provide photo identification, voters may sign an affidavit of identity or produce proof of residence, such as a utility bill in their name. Sample ballots are available at the clerk's page, www.grosseile.com. Please check your 2015 voter identification card or check the precinct map online to verify where you were assigned to vote. Some changes were made to precincts and boundaries in June 2015. High school students turning 18 on or before May 3rd, 2016 school district election, and other students currently not registered to vote must register by 5 p.m. on April 4th, 2016. in order to be eligible to vote at the May 3rd, 2016 school district election. And that's it for the clerk's report.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. January banking and investment information for January is not complete, but will be available on my website probably by the end of the week. February 29th is the final due date for 2015 tax payments. The Treasurer's Office will accept payments until the end of the day, the business day on February 29th. Payments dropped in the drop box outside as of 8 a.m. Monday will be considered current when we take it up, and the final 2015 tax payments will be part of that 2015 tax payment. All unpaid 2015 summer or winter will then be considered delinquent and must be paid at the Wayne County's office with further penalty and interest. If information is needed regarding payments to Wayne County, you may contact our Treasurer's Office for that information. I strongly urge anybody that is in a position to make those payments, get it done prior to that, because the Wayne County trip is not a pleasant trip. I've been there and I've seen what goes on down there, and they get so many people coming in to pay on the last day or early in that period that they end up using other facilities to house people and just shuttle them back and forth across the street. It's an absolute zoo. It's not a place you want to be to make your tax payments. We'll begin to compile our tax roll information for the first week of March and deliver those rolls to Wayne County. And just to comment that we had a little discussion at the DPS meeting. There are some people on the island that do not make their water payments, allowing them to go on the tax bill. Now, I'm sure there's reasons for this, other than the reason you can't afford to make your water payment. Understand that any water bill that's allowed to go to taxes is probably going to cost you 30% at least in penalties and interest. And do go against the foreclosure on a piece of property if it's delinquent for up to 3 years. So you should really think of that policy, because we have a lot of people that do that. And I'm not sure of the reason, what the logic is. I'm sure some of them can't pay it, and that's an issue that they have to address. But if you're doing it for a tax break, you're paying whatever you would save in tax deductions, you're paying in penalties and interest. So we're going to start a program next year encouraging everybody to kind of stay current on those. I don't know how many it was last year, but there was a lot of people that had their water bills go forward in taxes. So just as a word of advice, and we get our money as soon as we send it to Wayne County, they send it to us. But you end up ultimately, as a taxpayer and a ratepayer, paying the penalty. That's one of the reasons we don't have a shut-off policy on the island, because once it gets forward on your taxes, we get paid. But we don't get to 30%. Wayne County's going to end up with most of that. We'll get a portion of it. We won't get it all. So just a word to the wise. And Mike, when's our next meeting? 21st. We have a meeting that's of next month, of March, 21st of March. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Move on to trustee liaison reports, and I'll ask Mrs. Smith to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As of today, we have 88 more days until Island Fest, and I know that this warm weather recently has probably got us a little jazzed for that, but there's a snowstorm coming. Fireworks are still set to be on the Friday evening, and the VIP tickets will be available shortly. Sadly, unfortunately, Fast Track Exotics will not be joining us this year because the airport will be under substantial construction as far as one of the runways, so that limits their participation, so they've decided to opt out this year, but they will be back in 2017. Helicopter rides are still a go. Car show will take place on Sunday instead of Saturday this year, and just want to encourage everybody to visit Island Fest Groseal.com to get sponsor information as well as vendor information. And our next meeting for Island Fest is going to be March 16th at 7 p.m. And we are hoping in March that we will be bringing forward another commissioner to join our group. And finally, the Township app, the non-emergency Township app that will be available for people to download that will include information in regards to bridge closings, and this is push information. You don't have to go to it for the information once you sign up with the app. As well as any government business and government events. And that is supposed to launch hopefully by mid-March, if not sooner. So we'll keep you posted, and obviously those sort of things will be mentioned on GATV, Facebook pages, and the REC publication, IE channels. That's it. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. We'll move to Trustee Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Our next DPS meeting is March 8th. We do have a ZBA meeting tomorrow. However, there is no appeal involved in the meeting, so no fireworks. One last thing, a week or so ago, there was an article in the paper about safest communities, and again, Groseal was the #1 safest community in Michigan. But I found more interesting than that even is the fact that in the downriver area, we had 6 communities that were in the top 50. Besides Groseal, we had Trenton, Brownstown Township, Huron Township, Riverview, and Woodhaven all made the top 50 safest communities in the state of Michigan. And that's based on 10,000 or more people in a community. One other interesting note is we had 10,150 people, so we're dangerously close of falling out of that rating. But I think it's nice to know that not only do we live in a safe community, but we live in a very safe area. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Trustee Malvesto.
Mr. Supervisor, I don't have anything for this evening.
Okay, thank you, sir. Trustee Poziesk, I'll bet you have some.
Are you ready for about an hour?
Hey.
I'll cut it short. #1, chili contest.
On the clock.
I don't get 3 minutes, do I? Chili contest was a great success. We had a lot of fun there. I want to publicly acknowledge Dale and Brandy, who worked their hearts out for it and helped at the night of the event. And I'd also like to say something special about my Sue, who was there slugging along all day with the rest of them. Those of you who were there, tell them what a good time you had, because when we have our steak roast on April 2nd, they'll want to be there. Second thing I'd like to tell you is that Bike Path Committee meets the second Tuesday of each month. I call them the Wildcats, and they are. I expect to hear from me in the future about increasing the number of members in BPAC from 7 to 9. We need the horses, and there's 7 horses pulling strong right now. But that comes later. They do the Lazy Ride. This year's Lazy Ride, 8 events planned already. Barradur on the 20th, when we do the garage sale, they expect 1,500 riders this year, and BPAC will be a part of that. The Downriver Rides, this is going to be an extension of Lazy Rides, and BPAC is at the front of a charge to link all of the downriver communities into rides in different communities every week. So if you want to talk about promotion of bicycles paths, this is the crew, and they are working their heart out. They do bike to school, they do walk to school, they're working on publications for channels and for general handouts. I can't say enough about the group. They're really, really special people. So I appreciate the support you give them. The fourth thing, Greenway's Open Space. They meet the first Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. And by the way, thank you, Ann and Brian Loftus, and the other 40 people on Facebook who said so many nice things about the new fit strip this week. That was very much appreciated, and I'm sure appreciated by little Mitch Lewis. I say little. Mitch is a student who's a liaison on our community Greenways and Open Space. So that builds him up, gives us confidence. There's something special coming out of him in coming years. Watch. And finally, Sacred Heart Fish Fries every Friday. So February 26th, fish fry. March 4th, fish fry. March 11th, fish fry. March 18th, fish fry. March 25th, fish fry. April 2nd, steak and corn. Huh? Is that going to taste good after all that fish? Support Sacred Heart for us, please. But don't forget about this steak roast. You know what it's going to be like. End of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Posiask. Move on to Township Attorney's report. Mr. Sword.
Mr. Supervisor, this was my error when you guys, on the agenda, the closed session item should not be on pending litigation. It should be on confidential written legal opinion regarding potential litigation.
Would you reflect the record to?
Sure. Confidential written legal opinion regarding potential litigation. And you should go to a roll call vote on that. And
Before we go to closed session,
yeah,
we will.
you will hear plenty from me at that, so that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sorty. Township Manager's report, Mr. Riem.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I want to update the board. I know the last couple meetings I explained that we're working on getting all the numbers and the figures for the contractors to put Township Hall back together from the mold removal that we had downstairs. And I do have preliminary figures from the contractor that we submitted our budget to the insurance company, and then the adjusters will come out. But we're looking at approximately $80,000 to put it back together. We've already expended $24,000 in the remediation, which we're seeking brownfield reimbursement for that, for mold remediation. So hope to have all this finalized and approved, and we'll come back to the board. Supervisor Loftus will update you about the upcoming budget meeting, but we have these figures reflected in the upcoming budget. So, and obviously doing everything we can to get a penny back through through an insurance claim. So that process will take place. To update you on the actual contractual work, this project started with a basically renovation downstairs for wallpaper, painting, flooring, windowsills. So it's my intention to, with the insurance company blessing, to, in essence, add to that original quotation for the drywall repair, and that contractor is going to be doing half of the original work to begin with. So, and these figures are that the $80,000 is reflective of all the original work. We took into consideration what's been accomplished in this fiscal year. So, if this all holds true, then there won't be any surprises, and that is definitely our plan. So we're waiting to get confirmation from the insurance company, and then I'll come back to the board. So,
anything else?
Nothing else.
Okay. Let's see. 2 weeks ago, I had a very short update. You may not be quite so lucky tonight. A lot going on and a lot of ground to cover. Just some fun stuff first. Some easy nuts and bolts, as Mr. Riem mentioned. Tomorrow night is our budget study session for the board. Gosh, we spent 3 full days. Treasurer Van Oss, myself, Trustee Budney, working with Ms. Darzniak, getting the budget together, looking at the numbers, and putting the best effort we can forward. Of course, it's up to the board. We'll be taking inputs tomorrow night, finalize it for a vote at the annual meeting. Not the annual meeting, but the business meeting on March 14th. A lot of hard work went into it. And Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Budney, thank you for being there. But the policy says I'm supposed to develop it, but gosh, it's a big elephant to eat. So thanks for your help, guys. That'll be tomorrow night. It will not be entertaining, but 6 o'clock. It will be informative. Okay, Tails, the bottle and can drive is still going on. That's through February 29th, and just a drop-off area. It's a good fundraiser for them. They're planning an expansion to our shelter. They need to raise funds for that. We were at a presentation for the expansion of the shelter. It's a good plan, and it's just the kind of service that we provide here on Grosse Ile. Women's History Month, celebrated at St. James Chapel on Sunday, March 6th at 2 p.m. to honor women in public service and government. Also a performance by Colette Cullen playing Annie Sullivan, who taught the deaf mute Helen Keller to read and to talk. It's at 2 p.m. Sunday, March 6th. There's no fee for admission, but they will, of course, be taking donations, and refreshments will follow the performance. More good stuff. The Grosse Ile Education Foundation, many of you probably got your mailer already from them. I'm just going to push it a little bit. Backed by popular demand, the Education Foundation is proud to bring the Make a Million Gala. Join us once again to transform the Grosse Ile Golf and Country Club into a fully functioning casino. The lively music, great food. And if you're lucky, this is what on their website. Just for fun, gamblers could go home with one of the thousands of dollars worth of prizes. Grosse Ile Education Foundation, their mission. Volunteer, nonprofit community organization committed to lifelong educational experiences for the students and families of Grosse Ile. We do this by financially supporting creative and exemplary educational opportunities provided through Grosse Ile Township schools and the community. These are things that are not funded through the state funding that comes with the students or the villages that your tax dollars support. It's March 12th. Doors open at 6:30. The tables open reportedly at 7. It'll be a great time. Other stuff, Wayne County, for those of you who have hazardous waste you've accumulated over the winter, Wayne County will be hosting hazardous waste disposal. The first one is Saturday, April 23rd from 8 to 2 at the Huron High School parking lot, Huron River Drive in New Boston, Huron Township. Odds and ends such as household paint stains, dyes, floor wax, furniture polish, pharmaceutical waste, not controlled substances, nail polish, the stuff that you shouldn't be putting out with your trash to go into the Riverview landfill. And I'll give updates on that as the days get closer. Okay, that was the fun stuff. Now, you're going to get it's editorial comment time. We mentioned safety, and Trustee Buddy rightly reminded us that we are the safest community. And the safety reports generally are based on the crime reports, and we really are blessed in that we just don't have, and I'm good with it, we just don't have much crime here, and we have a dedicated police force and community eyes that are intent on keeping it that way. But again, as I've said in the past, safety goes beyond that and into our firefighters, our fire and rescue, and our water system. And Chief, I'm going to ask you. You had a fully engulfed fire Saturday morning. Could you give us just a couple minutes on firefighters' response to that? I'm so proud of those guys.
We had kind of a busy weekend. We responded to 8 rescues this weekend, along with a fully engulfed house fire at Owen and Meridian at 4:14 in the morning. As usual, the guys did a wonderful job. I give kudos to the group, all the men and women of the department. I talked to you earlier about it's a very unique organization in the sense that it can respond with 3 fire trucks, an ambulance, a pickup, and 2 command cars and not call for any help. That's extremely unusual in today's day and age in the downriver areas in general. So I put 24 firefighters on the fire ground that night, along with all that equipment. The fire was put out relatively quick. Late in calling us, the gentleman tried to put it out himself and then had trouble getting a call out to us. So we were probably 23 minutes prior to the fire gaining speed, but he happened to open the door back up after he left, and that's when the house flashed. And that's when it took off. But we were probably 20 to 30 minutes prior to when he first caught the fire. So as soon as you see something going on in the house, please call us, because we can minimize the damage. This happened to be a total loss. It was a smaller home. It was an old 1943, 1940 log home. So you can imagine how dry that house was. So we had good wind coming out of the west like we did in the brick fire 2 years ago. So we had a few obstacles, but they knocked that fire down in probably about 20 minutes. They got it. The house is standing, but it's severely damaged. But again, to my crews, as a chief, I couldn't ask for a better group of guys, men and women. So very proud of them.
Yeah. And keep in mind how windy it was that night. There was no damage to there was an adjacent house that's very close, and they prevented damage to that house. So, again, well done. Okay, that's part 2 of the safety of living in Grosse Ile. Part 3 is what we've all been inundated with, is our water supply. Part of it we discussed tonight on looping the system and improving our delivery. This editorial comment is mine and mine alone. Tonight we have demonstrated our commitment to improving your water supply system rather than ignore it until suffering a major failure. I'm proud to emphasize that Grosse Ile Township has shown and continues to show great foresight in the maintenance of our water supply system. However, this does come with a price, as we just considered earlier this evening with the East River Road Water Main Replacement Project. Your Department of Public Services has prepared and continues to execute a water service capital improvement plan to preclude allowing our system to deteriorate. The advantages of this proactive approach has been made abundantly clear by the widespread failures by numerous governmental agencies in Flint. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've been inundated with accusations ad nauseum as to who is to blame for the dangerous water quality in Flint, usually coming from opportunistic politicians who have absolutely no idea what is involved in providing and removing municipal water. These claims seem to imply that Flint's problems were caused by outsiders within the last 2 years, but reality reaches much further. Flint was once a very prosperous city, yet did little to improve its water delivery infrastructure. Now suffering such neglect, their elected officials and countless unaccountable activists are demanding the state pay the bills for the long ignored maintenance. Enough. Hundreds of communities throughout Michigan provide municipal treated water, with the largest supplier being the Great Lakes Water Authority, formerly the Detroit Water and Sewage Department. Here on Grosse Ile, the cost of local delivery of that water to your taps, including system repairs and upgrades, is covered through your water bills administered by the township. Those bills cover repair costs, repairs that include removal of lead service lines whenever we discover them. Even though we are a relatively small community, we have demanded no outside aid. After another attempt to fix part of Flint, what next? Michigan has almost 10 million residents. How much longer will the rest of the state be willing to pay for the continued errors of a few? We're paying our way. Most of Michigan's paying its way. But again and again, demands on the state for the errors made by local elected officials. We just received a letter from Sue McCormick, Great Lakes Water Authority. Here is the factual assessment on lead. Lead did not come from the treatment plant and the water mains. It came from lead service lines running between the water mains and homes, and from plumbing inside the homes themselves, which contributes to test results varying from home to home. Flint has now switched back to Great Lakes Water Authority, and an improvement in the quality of the tap is being seen. And it goes on to say, with federal regulations, while federal regulations consider the path forward for us as individuals and communities to remove lead service lines and plumbing that are the sources of lead, Great Lakes Water Authority will continue our commitment to maintain optimal corrosion control. That's the addition of the phosphates to protect the lead service lines. Grosse Ile, when we worked on water mains, we found a lead service line. We replaced them up to the homeowner's property and worked with homeowners to remove the lead beyond that. Proactive, yet cost a little bit up front, costs a lot less in the long run. Well done, Department of Public Service. For those of you who are concerned, we have numerous copies of available. You all have it married to your homes. And this is the most recent 2014 Water Quality Report. Again, lead. 2014 lead and copper monitoring at the customer's tap. Regulated contaminant lead. Test date 2014, units of parts per billion, health goal, MCLG, I knew it, the maximum contaminant level goal, obviously 0. There's no safe level of lead. Action level is at 15 parts per billion. Number of samples over the action level, 0, no violation. Causes, corrosion of household plumbing system, no lead discovered on Grosse Ile above the action level. Some of it's just almost too minuscule to even record. So, again, good job, Grosse Ile DPS. Good job, Grosse Ile residents, in paying for it. We're paying our way, and I'm darn proud of us. And I'm just tired of. We got to make the state bail out. We got to make the state bail these people out. They had elected officials who weren't doing their jobs. We're doing our jobs, and your township employees are doing their jobs. Thank you, one and all. That will conclude my report. There is a I'll get it on the website. The Wayne County Health Department sets up a lead hotline. I don't see it being exercised here because we just don't have lead in our water here. Thanks once again, and find my agenda. With that, open to public comment. That's Mrs. Walker's hand, I'll bet I see over that monitor.
Good evening, Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. I just wanted to do an update from a couple weeks ago. I mentioned that the Genesee Animal Shelter looking for water, and they were collecting it at Pets on the Ritz, and they have a connection with Tails. One of the gals is on the board. They got over 1,000 gallons, which is pretty amazing for the animals. They need more. Be happy. They got it for 83 cents. You can drop off a check. They'll pick it up. In fact, the gal called me to tell me, and she said that people asked her what she was doing at Myers, buying all this water, and she said for the animals, they started handing her money, saying, "I don't care what you do with it. Just get it to the animals." So it's really been a good thing, but they're thirsty and they need fresh water, and I hope everybody, drop off a check. That's what I did. I'm not going to schlep the gallons. They did it, and maybe we can get 2,000 this time for the animals. So I hope everybody thinks about it out there and on the board, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Other comments from the public present? None offered. I will entertain a motion to retire to closed session.
So moved.
Will be a roll call. Okay, motion by Trustee Budney, seconded by Clerk Ranka. This will require, so with a roll call vote, Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Budney?
Aye.
Treasurer Van Oss? Supervisor, aye. Clerk Ranka? Trustee Malvesta? And Trustee Posiask?
Aye.
With a unanimous vote, we will retire to closed session. We will retire from open session at, make it 8:39. And gosh, we've got to meet downstairs now because it's election in this.